It was a lot. I feel like I drank a lot more wine than I normally consume. It was funny because I shouldn't say funny, I'd have really dramatic up days where, the beginning of the day would start really rough with, like I said, changing diapers and trying to, pick him up to get him in a wheelchair. And then later on that night, I would have an amazing experience where it was, going to a speaking conference or something to that nature where it was like a complete high, from a low. So just kind of going with like the flow of it and just knowing that each day taking like the most out of it, making the most out of it, and just being thankful each day for what I had, and the time that I have to spend with them, even if it's not necessarily the best time, that we're still spending that time together. And then at the end of the day, I still had other things that were great that came from it as well.
Welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast. In this podcast, you will experience wisdom, advice, and stories from creatives all over the world. Your host is Amani Roberts, who is a DJ, music producer, professor, avid book reader, and developing salsa dancer. On the show, we love to share the stories of creative professionals, especially people who have gone from the corporate life to the creative life. Once again, welcome to the Amani Experience Podcast.
Welcome to episode 19 of the Amani Experience Podcast. This episode, we have Lindsey Zuelich, who will be talking to us. My favorite part about this episode is Lindsey's journey. She started and went to FIDM, and then from there went to Trader Joe's, and then started her own company, her own business. And just her journey, and then the fact that she has to also take care of her father. It's very inspirational. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you very much for listening. Remember to subscribe and rate the podcast. And to the show we go. Welcome back to the show. I'm going to read our guest bio for today's show, and then we'll get right to it. Our guest today is a Los Angeles-based woodworker who creates wooden accessories for both men and women from reclaimed exotic woods. She was raised by a single father who was adamant that she learn how to use tools and know how to build and create. This led her to get a degree in interior design and later start her own small business by the name of Woodbrain, specializing in handmade wooden accessories. She has built a career in making art for a living, from trips to the mountains, spending time in front of the ocean, and being out amongst the trees. She draws her inspiration from traveling and being heavily rooted in building and creating with her hands. She will lead a woodworking creative section, and she's going to have a lot more workshops in the upcoming year. So today I would like to introduce to you Lindsey Zuelich from Woodbrain. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
I always love to do a geographic check-in for my guests. So right now we're here in Manhattan Beach recording. Where are you born and raised?
Born and raised in Torrance, the South Bay.
All right, so you're South Bay, young lady. And have you ever lived outside the LA area?
I have not.
Okay, not yet.
Not yet. I spent a month in Costa Rica. I'd like to think that I lived there. My heart's still left back there. But yeah.
All right. That's good. So kind of walk us through, how did you, well, let's see here. Where can we start? We can start with maybe where you went to school and how you went from school to starting your business.
Sure, yeah. So I went to FIDM, which is the Fashion Institute of Design and Merchandising in downtown LA. And I went there for interior design, architecture, and landscaping, which led me to build scale models and furniture. And at one point, I actually wanted to build scale models for a living. I remember putting my portfolio together and explaining to my career counselor that I was going to be a model builder. And I remember him telling me, be adaptable, because one day there could be these 3D printers that print out models, and cut to today, that's exactly what happened. Yeah. So, but yeah, I went to school for interior design, architecture, landscaping. I built furniture for a little bit of time. And so when I got out of school, I was a little lost as to what I wanted to do. I didn't feel really at place with being an interior designer, but I did love all of the elements of it, and working with the wood and the scale model building and furniture. So, which that led me to working with wood more and creating my own small business of working with wood full time.
Nice. So you're the first woodworker we've had on the show. You're actually the first woodworker I've ever met. So
ooh, awesome.
I'm honored. Dope. How'd you get from FIDM to then working at Trader Joe's?
So I bartended for some time after college, and one of my regulars that would come into the bar was a manager at Trader Joe's, and he always just seemed very happy and exuberant. And at the time, I didn't have medical or dental, and thought, this is a good switch over. I mean, I can only be in the bar industry for so long, and I knew I went to school for something more, and so switched over to Trader Joe's and started to do some of the artwork for them, where they have a sign department where we get to do like the chalks and the murals that surround the store. So that kind of led me to still be able to do my creative art freedom, but also have medical, dental, and vision.
Nice.
Yeah.
When was the point when you said, okay, I'm here at Trader Joe's, I'm happy, but I really, really want to pursue my own company full time and kind of take the full leap into doing your own thing?
So when I started Trader Joe's, I thought, this is going to be like my 5-year plan. I'll stay here, I'll get, my feet under, and I'll figure out what it is that I exactly want to do. And I'd say about 2.5 to 3 years in, I realized this is a great company, I get paid great money. However, I went to school to do something bigger and more, and I know that I want to work with my hands, and that's where I really am at my happiest. How can I lead to do more of that? So I had gone to a couple arts and craft fairs and festivals, and I'd really enjoyed seeing all these makers and builders that were creating so much beautiful things and enjoying what they were doing. And I thought, that's something I want to do. I want to create and make something, whether it's a tangible product or whether it's furniture that people get to enjoy, but I want to do something with my hands that people get to tangibly walking away with. I was still doing something with my hands at art for Trader Joe's, but you weren't able to tangibly walk away with it, and it was still somebody else's art. So I wanted to be able to, put my own brand or my own name on something.
Okay. Now, I saw pictures of some of the art you did at Trader Joe's, and it was really, really nice, like very, very good. How did you decide to go from being an artist, because you had a talent with that, and then to do woodworking, like going to FIDM? Usually people think of FIDM as like a fashion school.
Yeah.
So how was that whole dynamic?
And so it's funny, when I first went to FIDM, or cut back when I got out of high school, I thought I wanted to go to FIDM for fashion. I all through high school, I actually sewed my own clothes. I was in fashion club, and I really enjoyed sewing. That was where my original love was. I mean, it was still working with my hands. And I remember my dad saying, well, if that's what you want to do, maybe you should take some community college classes first. So I took a couple courses at El Camino College in pattern making, and I realized very quickly that was not what I liked. Whatever. I very much liked the free form of sewing. I never had actually physically made a pattern or had to stay to like cutting a scale, and so that wasn't something that really sparked my interest. So then I started to take a bunch of other art classes, and one of them was a woodworking class at community college, and it was just a sculptural class, but I genuinely enjoyed, like I said, working with my hands, and I knew that there was something there, and that I needed to really pursue that.
Cool. Now, I read that your father insisted on you learning how to use tools and be able to create using your hands.
Yes.
How has that impacted your life and your career?
Oh, man. Pretty much in every single way. When I say he was adamant, he was just really, he owned a lot of tools and was very handy. My dad's name is Jack, and so he's, joke that he's Jack of all trades. But he owns a lot of tools, and his big insistence was when he passes, he wanted to make sure that I knew how to use them and that I put them to good use and that I didn't just sell them. So in the very early on, I was his helper of go get this tool or that tool. So I learned early on of what these different tools did. We would do plumbing around the house, we did electrical and foundation, and so I learned a little bit of everything, and that's really impacted, I think, my art as far as, like I said, going to school for interior design, architecture, and landscaping. It just kind of had a little facet of each one of those elements, and I couldn't really pick my one point of what I wanted to do. I knew all of these facets really interest me, so going to school for, that open-ended spectrum gave me a lot of options.
Interesting. I also read, there's a quote on your website that says, find your creative spirit through working with your hands. So how do you take care of your hands? Because like for me, I'm a DJ, I need my hands to do lots of things, so I worry. How do you take care of your hands so they can still be at optimal performance levels?
Yeah. When I was in school for interior design, one of the things we'd have to do architectural lettering, and a lot of it's all hand done. And so one of the things they would have us do is put a rubber band around the outside of our fingers, and we would stretch it apart and back and forth, stretch it apart, which would help exercise all the hands so you wouldn't get in kind of like, in a sense, writer's block in your hand because you're doing constant repetitive writing. So I still do a lot of those types of exercises. My husband plays guitar, and so he has a strength trainer for his hand.
Nice.
So I use that every now and then. But as far as like, I should probably be better about putting like lotion or doing manicures or something to that nature. I was actually looking, now that we're in the holiday months, and I've really put some strain on them. I was like, I should have put that on my Christmas list of having, maybe a manicure day and just having my hands get a little bit of love.
Okay, it's not too late.
That's true. Maybe I'll have to mention that.
Yes, maybe a little hint there. So you've been in business for yourself for like how many years now?
Coming up on 6.
6 years.
This will be 6 at the end of it.
What do you think is important for creative professionals to succeed in today's business environment?
I say this with my workshops, I say this with woodworking, and I say this with life. Being adaptable. You're going to set off on one thing and think that's the way that the road that's going to happen, and the way that it's going to set out, and maybe in the same time deadline. But if you're not adaptable, then you're just going to be set up for failure, and you're not set for success and being able to just roll with the punches of what's going to happen with life. And so with woodworking as a huge thing of being adaptable, there's more times than not when, something maybe chips or cracks or it doesn't work out the way you want it to, and so you have to adapt and make it work for you where you would never know that even had happened. And so I think the same thing with life. Like I explained in the beginning with my interior design, my teacher saying, like, don't get so set on being a model builder. These 3D printers will be in our future one day. And I remember thinking, no, that could never happen. But, had I not been adaptable, I would have, set down this road just so tunnel visioned. But yeah, so being adaptable would be my word of advice.
Good. What do you have a specific example maybe that you've had to be adaptable in your life or career where it kind of took a turn that really was a pleasant surprise maybe?
Sure, yeah. So in the first 2 years of running my business, I did pretty much all online sales, and I did a couple festivals and markets. And then I had the great opportunity to open my own brick and mortar, which was an amazing opportunity, stressful. At the same time, I had to, now worry about a lot more overhead, having to do insurance, having, liabilities, all of that types of things, paying electrical. But with all of that came so many great possibilities and more opportunities for my business to grow. And so I had that brick and mortar for 3 years, and I really expanded it. I built, some beautiful structural elements to it. I had my own cash wrap and wooden cash register. I had wooden walls that I had just spent a lot of time, making just perfect for my shop. And up towards the end of that 3 years, I realized that I was spending way too much time there, and I wasn't, really growing my business. The ROI on it wasn't what I needed it to be. And I was only one person, and in order for me to really grow, I probably needed to step back from this. And so it was hard, but I closed my business, my brick and mortar, and went back to just doing online wholesale and festivals and shows. But I adapted, like I explained, and it was one of the best things I could have done for my business. It's grown tremendously. I still stay in touch with a lot of my customers that came through my brick and mortar. So it's been a great thing, as hard as it was, and I would have never seen in the beginning of those 3 years in my brick and mortar life frame that would have changed. But it was for the best, and I'm glad that I went through it and all the experience that I got from it.
Good. And that was when you were at Crafted down at San Pedro, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you think you'll ever open a brick and mortar again?
I don't think I will, just because it takes a lot of time and energy to physically be somewhere.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of my products in different beautiful boutiques around the South Bay, and I think I love to see that it's showcased in other, shops and stuff. I think that it's great to have other people curate it rather than have to do it for myself. I definitely stressed being a shop owner. I give it up to anybody that does it. It's just to find that right, product, everything that matches, and just having it displayed right. It was a labor of love for sure.
Okay, nice. When was I like to ask this, when was the turning point of your career? So when did you realize this is legitimate and this is really going to be where I'm going to kind of go for the near future?
So I went to a small business conference called the Unique Camp, and I met a bunch of other really amazing, like-minded entrepreneurs and small business owners. And just sitting down and chatting with these people around a campfire and really like hearing everybody else's struggles and things that they wanted to do and admire to, and listening to their stories, and then seeing how similar they were to mine, as well as also seeing like how I inspired people to, create things with their hands, and just having a conversation with people and hearing them say, God, I'm so glad that we talked about this. I can't wait to get home and do things with my hands. And I had this project that I've been sitting on the back burner I haven't worked on, but I can't now. I'm really excited to do that. And just the multiple times that I have conversations with people and I tell them that I'm a woodworker, and how they light up and excited they get to either hear more or to tell me their story of their little experience or even huge experience of woodworking, or even that they have a family member that's a woodworker. There's just something about it that's just very exciting that I see that in that conversation that I constantly have with people. And I think that was like the turning point that I realized, okay, this is something I need to follow my heart. And it's not just me that gets excited about it. Everybody that I chat with gets excited about it. Even when I downplay it, I'm just, this is what I do. And I see how excited they get.
Right. Yeah, our mutual friend, Lisa, she said, I have someone for you to interview. Her name is Lindsey. She's a woodworker. I said, a woodworker? I said, ooh, yeah, let's talk to her.
Yeah.
So I understand.
It was a dying art at one point, the craftsmanship of being a woodworker. But it's such a revival thing that you're starting to see more and more of, and people working with their hands and that labor of love. And wood is such a beautiful medium that is like an ever lasting thing that we'll always see. So it's really awesome to see more and more woodworkers out there. And I would even say it's really nice to see more female woodworkers out there.
Yes.
If you start to actually research them and research the hashtag woman woodworker, there's a bunch of them out there, and there's some really amazing people doing some amazing things.
Good. Props to you all.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
Yeah.
I know for me, I love my wood floors at home, my wood furniture. And I was going to ask you, I need to design a new DJ booth.
Ooh,
how possible is it to design it out of wood?
It would totally be possible. And with something like that, I know you would need to make it lightweight, transportable,
right.
So that it's, economic or ergonomically friendly, so that you can be able to get it in and out of your vehicle and transport it. It's totally doable.
Really?
Being that I did festivals and stuff to that nature, all of my displays and trunks and stuff had to be portable and be able to hold all of my equipment, but as well as be able to be put in the back of my truck and withstand being on the freeway and all of that.
Right.
So yeah, it's totally, we should definitely talk more about designing some fun stuff.
We definitely do, because I've been that's on my list. I want a really high-end DJ booth, and so if it's wood, that'd be unique and cool, and
maybe something that kind of folds up and then unfolds when you get there.
Right, but when you put it up there, it looks nice. People are like, wow, but it doesn't detract attention from the focus of the client, the bride or the corporate client or whatever.
Yeah, but it just gives that nice little extra element to it, right?
Exactly.
So let me ask you, are you a dark wood fan or a light wood fan?
I'm more of the honey kind of light wood.
Okay, all right.
But I'm open to dark wood as well.
It's fine. Everybody has their preference.
Right.
I can never make that decision. It's one of the hardest things I think I have to do.
Right.
But I always love to hear what other people, as far as their choice of wood and what they're more honed to. It's funny. I can never pick what somebody would go to. So.
Oh, okay. I should ask you. What do you think? But yeah, so honey wood for me.
Okay.
Cool. I wonder if there's a way, because I see some DJ booths, not common, but there's a way to put a little monitor or a TV screen or something, or interesting things.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna talk.
Yeah, for sure. We even do a little logoing on the front, with your info and stuff. Yeah. Do you have a business card by chance?
Yes.
Okay, so I brought you a little something fun.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad you said light wood too, because.
Lovely. Oh, thank you.
I don't know if you already have a business card case, but.
No, but this will be mine. Oh, pretty.
To hold your cards in. It also works well. I put some nice. Credit cards and my money in it and stuff like that.
Perfect.
But yeah.
And then I also saw you have the flasks as well. Those are cool. Now you don't have to give me the flasks, but I'm gonna put them in our little Instagram story because the flasks are super cool.
So it's funny. Originally it started, I was making a lot of wooden accessories, and for Christmas I didn't know what to get my stepdad, and he's a big connoisseur of really great cognacs and whiskeys, and I thought, why not make him a fun, unique Christmas gift? So a couple years back I made him a wooden flask, and he just absolutely loved it. And he was like, okay, I have to give more of these to some of my friends. Can I place an order? And so then it transformed into each year I had to up my game. What can I give him next? So then I started making cigar flasks, lighters, the card cases. So a lot of this is very much inspired by him too, and things that each year, what could I give him for a Christmas gift that he didn't already have?
Yeah, I'm gonna put these on Instagram stories right now. Nice. So while we do that, share with us, why do you love being a woodworker?
Woodworking to me is a therapeutic. It's just so therapeutic. Sanding, oil finishing, picking out all the different woods to work with. I feel like I'm probably a little bit more of a high-strung person than I'd like to admit, but I notice when I'm, tunnel visioned into working with a project, I can zone out for hours. I mean, to the point where I look up and I'm like, oh God, I didn't realize I've been in my shop for 3 hours and I haven't, eaten anything, drank anything, gone to the bathroom. But it's just so. It's so time consuming, but at the same token, it's so therapeutic and so, like I said, a labor of love. I could do it for hours. I love seeing how people's response to the different types of woods, and I couldn't see my life without working with my hands. I couldn't see my life without working with wood and having wooden elements in my life.
Good. I mean, with the product that I see here, I can understand how that would be the case. Like, this is cool stuff. I'm excited.
Thanks.
For sure. What is something that scares you?
So I've said it multiple times with this labor of love in my hands and love working with my hands. My biggest fear is, I think, to ever lose a limb. I've never broken anything, knock on wood. Yeah. And so I'm just always amazed when I see people that are like playing the piano with their toes, or just able to like create still without their digits or their hands or their feet. And so I think my biggest fear would be to lose one of these. These are my money makers, my labor of how I get around and what I do, and so to not have them would be a huge scare for me.
Right. I can relate. I mean, I play soccer and I'm active, so I worry about, hurting a wrist, a finger, but we have to stay in shape too, right?
Yeah. And I can't let it also, I remember at one time almost being worried to go on a snowboarding trip because I thought, what if I break an arm or something to that nature? But I'm like, I can't not live my life, because of this, but at the same token, I am very, cautious of things and just make sure that I, like you said, do take care of my body and my hands, so.
Okay. Now, there's a lot of competition in today's kind of creative space, maybe not necessarily with woodworking, but there's lots of like furniture makers and people who make other different luxury items such as you.
Yeah.
What do you do to kind of rise above the competition and rise above the noise and distinguish yourself?
Yeah, so in the last couple of years, like I said, I've started out by making actual physical product, and in the last couple of years, I've switched over to now offering workshops where I can, teach this skill to other people so that they can enjoy the same craft, and it leads me to be able to offer 5 to 10 people to be able to make something in an hour's time that I would have only been able to make so much product in an hour's time. Plus, just being able to conversate and enjoy other people's company. So for that, to me, I think is a great way of giving back. I see a lot of woodworkers that, like I said, it's very time consuming, so we can spend hours in our shop. So just taking a little bit of time out to teach workshops and to be able to give back that labor of love to other people has been a big way for me to set myself apart. I'm even in the next year or so going to maybe look into offering some like tutorial videos where people that I'm not able to meet face to face and one-on-one, that they can still get their hands dirty or feel that they empowered to be able to do things with their hands and pick up maybe a tool or two around their house and fix something or make something on their own.
Okay. Tell us how you came up with the name Woodbrain.
Yeah, so I constantly am using my brain to think of how I can, make or create things, and I constantly noticed the material of choice was wood, and I was, even if it was a soft material, I wanted to turn it into wood, whether it was, a dress or something. How can I make it look like wood grain? And so after a conversation with my husband, he was like, man, you always have wood on the brain. It's just like all you can think about. And it's like, yeah, like wood brain. That's like what my brain's like made of, It's just constantly producing things that are made of wood. So that's kind of where it came from.
Good story.
Yeah.
How has failure or an apparent failure set you up for later success? Do you have a favorite failure of yours?
I think, like I explained earlier about the brick and mortar, I think when I went to close my brick and mortar, in the beginning I kind of looked at it as a failure. I started the ship, I started building my sails and making all of my mast and, making it shipworthy and set out to sea just only to feel like I sank it. And that's my analogy of, running a brick and mortar. Right. But then I realized how much growth and change that I had come from that, and had I not, experienced having a brick and mortar and the challenges that it came from and growing my business and learning, the ins and outs of contracts and learning about hiring employees. I just think that was one of the best failures I could have come across, whether that was actual failure or not. It was a success while it lasted, and it saw its day, and there were other ships to be, I guess, sailed. So, yeah.
True. All right. Good story. Tell us about the darkest time in your life, how you got through that, and what did you learn from that experience?
So just recently, I didn't explain this to you earlier, but so just recently my father became quite ill. And my dad's like my hero, my rock. He's the one that got me into woodworking and creating with my hands. He was the, big stronghold. And he's been retired for 5 years, and he's steadily just declined with his health and didn't take as great care of himself as he should have. And so it was really rough in the last year or so having to take care of him and just watching the rapid decline of him and to physically pick him up and to take care of him. It was really, really hard and really rough, some of the decisions that I had to make for him and for our family. I'm an only child, and he doesn't really have anybody else, so it is me to make all these decisions. I kind of felt like I had to put on my big boy pants, and they were a lot bigger than I expected. I almost had to get suspenders out. So it was just really rough and a very challenging time. But I also remember my dad just being very adamant about we only have this one life to live, and you do everything and as much as you can with it on a daily basis, and be so grateful and thankful for what we have. And so I was just so grateful and thankful to still have those times to spend. And my dad spent all these years taking care of me and raising me. So if the least that I could do was to give back and to help for him and take some time to care for him, it was just a very rewarding yet very struggling time in my life, I guess. So I would say it's a very dark time, but I'm seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm able to get him the care that he needs. We're working everything out to the best, making it ADA compliant, and so I see light at the end of the tunnel, but it was definitely a dark patch there for a while of, I don't think anybody looks forward to changing their parents' diapers or doing things to that nature, or even things they ever would, and I didn't think I ever would, but it makes you kind of think when you rise to the occasion, when certain things are you adapt. Certain things just are handed to you, and you're not expecting them to be handed to you, but you overcome, and you make them happen, and then you look back on it and you're like, whoa, I really took care that I handled that. I didn't think I would have, but yeah.
Yeah. So I've been through something maybe half as serious as you with dealing with an aging parent but I'm in the East Coast. I'm here in the West Coast, but I can only imagine what you had to go through. And then you still have to run your business. You still have to stay balanced with work, home life. So how did you do that?
It was a lot. I feel like I drank a lot more wine than I normally consume. It was funny because I shouldn't say funny, I'd have really dramatic up days where the beginning of the day would start really rough with, like I said, changing diapers and trying to, pick him up to get him in a wheelchair. And then later on that night, I would have an amazing experience where it was, going to a speaking conference or something to that nature, where it was a complete high, from a low. So just kind of going with the flow of it, and just knowing that each day taking the most out of it, making the most out of it, and just being thankful each day for what I had, and the time that I have to spend with them, even if it's not necessarily the best time, that we're still spending that time together. And then at the end of the day, I still had other things that were great that came from it as well. So.
All right. Well, good job handling that. And
thanks.
Keep it up. Stay strong. We're here for you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. So obviously the most influential person for you growing up was your dad.
Yeah.
What would you say would be maybe the top 2 or 3 lessons that you've learned from your dad throughout your life?
So in the beginning, I used to always think it was that he was a pack rat and he kept everything. But I'm realizing as a woodworker, keeping all of my scraps and keeping every little bit and piece of things, when it comes to woodworking, has been very helpful. I had this scrap pile for a long time that just kind of sat, and I thought, I was getting ready to get rid of it, and then a spark kind of came of a creative project, and I was able to put these scrap pieces to work and just created a beautiful mosaic with them, with something I would have normally gotten rid of. But I remembered my dad giving me that thing of, just keep everything that you can. You never know when this is going to have use to it. So that would be one. And then 2, I think, is a foundational, he'd always say, measure twice, cut once. And with woodworking, that comes in handy with everything. But for him, it was like when we were doing plumbing, electrical, everything. It was just always measure twice and then cut once, because you only have the one shot. Once it's cut, it's cut. There's no going back on it. And I think that kind of applies a little bit to life too. And so just double checking things before you finally commit to it, but don't over stress it. But twice is usually enough of a check.
And then make a decision.
Yeah.
And get on with it.
And get with it. Create.
So I read also where you recently said that you don't want to get so big that you can't keep up with it. Why are you focused on your business staying, I don't want to say small, but not like a lot of people try to grow their business and then sell it or whatever. Why are you so focused on keeping it kind of here at the size it is or currently is now?
I think I've come to a little more of a crossroads where I do need to grow a little bit more. But I think originally that thought process was I started out my business with, I'm a one-woman shop. I create everything with these two hands. But I'm learning that the ROI on that, the return on interest, isn't so helpful. And I only have two hands, and I can only physically make so much in a lifetime. But to be able to give back that knowledge is really maybe where I should have gone with it. And so that's kind of where I want to evolve it going into, is giving other people back. But it was originally the thought process was more, keeping it small. And I kept thinking like I would have to hire multiple people to be able to cut and do all of that. But I'm realizing that that's not such a bad deal. Like if I can outsource a little bit, which I'm now starting to do, it really alleviates a lot of time for me to be able to do more creative projects or to be able to teach workshops and, let other people be able to enjoy working with their hands. So I'm starting to let go of that thought process of not getting, bigger than what I thought. But I guess I never would have thought I would want to sell my business to somebody else to be able to now create what I made. That was more my thought process. I didn't want to get so big where I was just going to sell it off.
Right. Yeah, which is many people's goals.
They do,
well,
and that's a great. If you do that, I have a friend that loves doing that. He calls him a serial business starter, and he's great at it. He starts businesses, and within a couple of years, he gets them great and up and running, and then he sells them and does it again. That's just where he's great at. He doesn't want to the long term finish it off. I'm looking at the end game of I'm setting up a legacy for myself. I want to be known as a woodworker, and but I also want to be known as somebody that gave back and taught and inspired people to be able to use their hands. Being a female, I feel like there's stipulations on what we can and can't do, and so I feel like to inspire everybody of every gender and race to be able to just know that they can build and create with whatever they can, and their two hands, that I've won. So
yeah. You're winning, definitely. So keep winning.
All right.
If we could go back to 21-year-old Lindsey, I guess you're still here around the area, living. What kind of advice would you give 21-year-old Lindsey, knowing what you know now?
Yeah, I would say about the 3D printers, I would definitely say those are coming. Be prepared for that. Because that was right around the time I think I was a little bit naive of that could actually happen.
Okay.
But I would say, yes, 3D printers are coming. Be prepared for it. I'd continuously tell myself, be adaptable. Be ready to, when the wheels are changing to different things, to be able to jump on board and just keep rolling with it. I'd say to continue to be adaptable, to continue my creative spirit, and that that's all going to work out in the end.
Well done. Good. What is one lesson in life that took you the longest to learn?
Like we were just getting back on outsourcing. I think you can't do it all yourself. You can't. And I think, like I said, I started out my business motto as this one-woman shop that creates with these two hands. But that's not sustainable. And it's also a little bit prideful, too, to think that you can do it all yourself. Like I got to a point where I had to hire a bookkeeper and outsource some of the things that I genuinely don't want to do or not necessarily as great at. Hiring somebody else to be able to cut some of the wood for me to alleviate some time is money. So alleviating that so then I can create more and do other fun projects, even creating help. So when I offer workshops, if it gets to a point where they're a larger group, that I can assist everybody and have another assistant there to be able to lend a helping hand. So just realizing that, I can't do it all myself. Outsourcing is one of the best things you can do. Alleviate things that you don't like to do. And basically, it takes time to grow things and just be patient with it, but it all works out in the end, but alleviating the stuff that you don't want to do.
Good. That's huge. A valuable lesson.
Yeah, I wish it just took me a lot longer. Like I said, I think it was probably a prideful thing, but I'm getting over that part and just realizing that you can be prideful in other things. Yeah.
Yes, you can. We all learn at different times in life.
Yes, very true.
Good. Every great person has a sentence. What is your sentence?
So you read it on my website. It's that I'd like to inspire people to be able to find their creative freedom through working with their hands, and whatever that means to them. But we have these wonderful things to do amazing things with, and just finding that creative spirit where working with your hands is what I want to inspire people and empower people to do.
Great sentence. All right. Now, what's one new habit that you've added to your daily routine in the last year or two that's been extremely beneficial?
Yeah, so I get up around 4:35 every morning, and the night before I try to write out my list of whatever it is that I wanted to accomplish. And it's usually on a Post-it, so because I started out by doing it on a full piece of paper, and I get very ambitious. Oh, I'm gonna get everything done. But I notice if I do it on a Post-it, it keeps it kind of short. It's like 5 to 6 things. But I write it out the night before of what are going to be my heavy hitters? What am I going to really make my day the best if I accomplish these types of things for my business, for my well-being, for my family? So I write that Post-it out the night before, and then when I get up the next morning at 4:30 and 5, that first hour to 2 hours, I don't touch my phone. I shouldn't say don't touch it. I try not to log into any social medias or into my email or anything to that nature. I try not to respond to anything to that nature. Sometimes I'll do a little quick Insta story, but that's it, and I'll put it down. I won't check other people's. But then it allows me to that first couple hours of the day to really tackle what I set out on those lists, or to figure out how I'm going to squeeze those 5 to 6 things into my day throughout the day. And I've noticed I easily get 90% of them done. There's usually 1 or 2 that's left on there, but then I add that onto my list that night to be on for the next day. And I don't let it go more than 3 days where it doesn't get done. But yeah, so that's been a good thing, a good habit that I've put in place, is setting myself up the night before for the following day, writing it out on a Post-it, and trying to get up a good couple hours earlier than I would have normally started my day, and trying to accomplish those things before I'm distracted by the world and everything else that's in it.
Okay, good habit.
Yeah.
Now, you've talked a little bit about workshops, and explain to us what's the plan for your workshops looking into 2018.
Yeah, so some of the workshops that I've led all through 2017 have been at small business conferences and retreats, which have been great because it's usually a platform where there's a bunch of other workshops involved, and so you usually sign up, and you throughout the day you go to different workshops. In 2018, I'd like to really offer workshops to small businesses, or even small groups of people, even if it's wedding parties, where it's a small group of people that are going to come and just do some woodworking, and not be throughout the day stressed by a bunch of other workshops as well. So it's going to be just an all-inclusive day of woodworking. Maybe there'll even be some wine or whiskey tasting and flask making, some snacks involved, and socializing. But yeah, I'm switching over. I'm going to be creating my own workshop where I'll have people to be able to come to. It's a nice space. It's open. So I'm really excited about that and what the future has to hold with offering workshops in my own space, along with doing workshops at small business retreats.
All right, great.
Yeah.
And how can people find out information about the workshops?
Yeah, so on my website at Woodbrain, LZ, which is my initials, Lindsey Zuelich, .com, you can sign up for the newsletter. You can also see some of the workshops that I already have offered at some of the South Bay locations, as well as get in contact with me if you had some workshop ideas that you'd like to,
Nice.
chat about.
And if people are on social media, how can they find you?
Well, I'd hope that they're on social media because this is a free platform, and with, but on Instagram, I'm wood_brain, and on Facebook, it's woodbrain, just all one word.
And do you tweet at all, or just those two?
Yeah, I do tweet. And sorry, Twitter is wood_brain as well.
Good. I always have to show love for Twitter.
Yeah.
It's free.
Yeah, that's true.
You spend most of your time on Instagram, though, correct?
For sure, yeah.
All right.
I'm very picture-based. I think pictures say 1,000 words, so I feel like if you could show it in a picture or two. And I love Insta Story and be able to, share throughout the day what I'm doing, where I'm at. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we're big readers here on the Amani Experience podcast. So if there's 1, 2, or 3 books that you feel people should stop what they're doing and read them right away, what books would those be?
So I love to listen to audiobooks, especially when I'm in my workshop, because I feel like I'm doubling up, especially because I'll spend hours in there sanding, and it's very therapeutic to just sit and sand. So I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and one of the recent ones I listened to, which is amazing, it's by Robbins, and it's called the Rule of 5.
The 5-second rule?
The 5-second rule,
Yeah.
yes. Sorry.
Good book.
If you're ready. Okay. Which is funny because a lot of it's things that I did anyways. I do leave my phone in the other room. I do try to get up in the morning and set my day. So it was funny to hear those were practices that she was basically saying are successful tips.
Right.
But just even, I'm big on, there were times that I wasn't quick to respond or make a decision. And so I'm big on just, count it down and just make it happen. Just jump on it. Like, life's too short to sit around and like quantum, and like if you do, you're just going to get yourself in the way and your brain in the way. So that's a great one. You Are a Badass by
Jen Sincero.
Yeah, yes. I feel like I'm probably telling all the ones.
No, that's good.
Those are, and I like getting both of them in audiobooks, but I like getting them both by where they're the author, because I feel like both those women, they're just like, they're very like sparky and spunky the way they talk. So it's fun to hear them like read it to you, where they're genuinely like telling you like, get your stuff together. This is how you do it. So I really like, those were two that I've like listened to probably 3 or 4 times over. And I'll just jump around a chapter. Sometimes I'll just open it and just pick a chapter, just just to see where it's gonna like, what's going to give me for that 2 hours while I'm sanding. And then the 10X rule is another good one.
We'll find out the author, but the 10X rule.
10X rule.
Good.
That's another one. It's basically just like 10Xing life. Like if you're going to do something, like you do it times 10. Like you go all in, and you don't go all in, just all in, but you like really go all in. If you're going to do something, like do it right, give it your all, go to the times 10 with it, and like the outcome is always going to be times 10.
It will be. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Good books, though. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love audiobooks. I do love to sit down and actually physically read, but I tend to do that when I'm like traveling a lot more. So I feel like that's when I'm not, with my hands actually working. But I love to listen to audio ones. Like I said, and I like to try and pick them if I can, where the author is the one that's, reading them too.
Narrating it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Now, I think I did a little research, and if I recall correctly, you're also involved in something called Ocean Blue. Is that true?
Yeah, I run another business. I give back to charity as well. And actually, my woodworking business, I donate as well. Proceeds of my sales go to Trees for Future, where we plant trees around the world.
Nice.
But Ocean Loves Blue is just another company that I started with some of the graphic design work that I do, just doing some fun like T-shirt work and some fun beach wear. My husband and I, growing up both in the South Bay and the beach cities, we both love to surf, and we love to travel in ocean places around the world, Costa Rica being one of them. And I noticed the common thing that I find at a lot of these oceans is just pollution, trash, straws, things to that nature. So just educating people more and trying to give back with the proceeds of that. And just bringing awareness to less straws, less waste as much as possible.
Good. Well, nonprofits and giving back is important, so I wanted to highlight that. So thank you for sharing. Yeah. Where do you see yourself, your business, in the next 3 to 5 years?
That's a rough one, because I feel like being adaptable, as much as, like I said, I'd see myself a couple years back, I was doing this or that, but, sometimes it doesn't pan out the way you see it. Definitely inspiring people more and more with doing things with their hands. That's going to be a huge one, whether it's doing speaking events or whether it's doing actual hands-on workshops or doing one-on-one work events with people where they physically get to come to my workshop and build. But just empowering more people to find that labor of love of working with their hands. And however that actually looks, whether it's via showing videos or having them physically come work with me one-on-one, that's kind of where I see it in the next couple of years heading.
Lovely. So before I ask you the final question, just want to say thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you.
A great guest. I was so excited to meet a woodworker, and you met all my expectations, so there's much more we could talk about. So
yeah, this is my first podcast, and you met all of my expectations and more. You set the bar high.
Thank you. So as we leave, I always love to let our guests kind of give some last-minute thoughts or advice to people out there, some of the listeners out there. So thanks again for being on the show. What advice do you have for people out there that are listening?
Just every day, make the most of it. Love what you do, and if you don't know what that is yet, find something that you love to do. Experiment, be adaptable. Just take it all for its what we got to give.
Lovely. Yeah. And I can't wait to work with you on the DJ booth.
Yeah,
I'm excited
let's start
about
creating.
that.
Let's build together.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Thank you for listening to the Amani Experience podcast. You can check out the show notes on amaniexperience.com/podcast. Please remember to leave us a review on the platform you are listening on, and share this podcast with anyone who you feel would benefit from listening. See you soon on our next episode.